Hi, my name is Annalisa Carbonado, and the title of my project is Jean Piaget's Contribution to Education Through His Theory on Cognitive Development. I chose to focus on the educational characters track and selected Jean Piaget, specifically how Jean Piaget's contribution to education through his theory on child development and how children learn throughout their schooling. Jean Piaget was a famous Swiss psychologist who is often deemed the father of developmental psychology since he developed the first major theory of cognitive development. In regard to education, Piaget believed that learning was experience-based. He made significant contributions to child psychology by introducing ideas about mental development and cognitive theories. Piaget also believed that children can learn about the world by interacting with objects in their environment. Piaget's contribution to education mainly stems from his work on his cognitive development theory. Piaget describes cognitive development in this theory through a series of stages that children progress through as they develop. Each of these stages is characterized with different behaviors and ways of thinking and solving problems. A breakdown of the 4 stages of Piaget's theory can be seen on the right. The initial stage in Piaget's theory of cognitive development is known as the sensory-motor stage and lasts from birth to 2 years of age, in which the world is experienced through senses and actions. This stage is marked by an inability to form mental representations, and children also lack object permanence, which is the realization that people and objects exist even when they cannot be seen. The second stage in Piaget's theory of cognitive development is named the pre-operational stage and ranges from years 2 through 7. This stage is where children's use of symbolic thinking grows, mental reasoning emerges, and the use of concepts increases. Another marker of this stage is egocentric thinking, where children cannot take into account others' viewpoints, thus why some preschoolers talk to themselves or ignore the instructions of adults. One fallback of this stage is that children are still not capable of operations such as logical reasoning. The third stage in the theory is named the concrete operational stage and occurs from ages 7 to 11. This stage is marked by the child's ability to understand concrete events and analogies, but they still lack abstract thinking and moral reasoning processes. The fourth and final stage in Piaget's theory of cognitive development emerges in adolescence, roughly from 12 years of age and onward. In this stage, children can think abstractly and reason hypothetically. In regards to Piaget's research, one interview was conducted with Piaget where he discusses his experiments on children that led him to develop his theory on cognitive development. These experiments included observing children's actions, such as their drawings and how their interactions with objects shaped their knowledge. The last point of this slide focuses on how Piaget ultimately created these 4 stages. Specifically, Piaget focused on student errors in the classroom and the things different school-age children could and couldn't do, which led him to develop and identify 4 stages of cognitive development that are associated with various age ranges in children. My focus on Piaget's theory is relevant to education since it has impacted how teachers interact with children and the approaches that are taken when educating them. Specifically, Piaget's descriptions of how children solve problems, how they behave, and the way they think can be valuable for helping teachers to better understand their students. This has been seen in studies where his theories have had powerful educational implications in which many schools use his principles to guide instruction. Another source of my research described how Piaget had practical implications for teachers and made them aware of their responsibility to make children become good thinkers. One such study focused on English primary schooling and how Piaget's theory caused educators overseas to change the detailing of their English curriculum to better shape the learning abilities of children depending on their age range. On the other hand, in the United States, Piaget's theory of cognitive development impacted how teachers in Arizona fought against new standards that were being imposed on their social studies curriculum. Specifically, how educators used Piaget's theory to debate against proposed standards for grades K through 3 and how they did not fit into the pre-operational stage abilities of children. This shows the relevance of Piaget's research and his theory that has continuously impacted educators and the way curriculum is developed and applied in classrooms. specifically the vast reach that Piaget had as a result of his theory on education over both time and distance. Piaget's ideas about learning and development have influenced constructivist theories of learning as well as a tendency for passive background roles for teachers in children's education. Piaget suggested the teacher's role involved providing appropriate learning experiences and materials that stimulate students to advance their thinking. His theory has influenced concepts of individual and student-centered learning, formative assessment, active learning, and peer interaction. When discussing the relevance of Piaget to this course, it is clear that he has impacted the history of education in the U.S., even if he was not discussed explicitly in our content. Despite this, he resembles our discussion of John Dewey in Module 7. Both Piaget and Dewey believed in progressive education and emphasized that children learn through the act of doing. In regard to Dewey, we were introduced to him in Module 7, where we read about how he impacted education. More specifically, Dewey deplored externally presented material conceived and generated in standpoints and attitudes remote from the child. This showed that Dewey emphasized the importance of a more child-centered school. This approach resembles Piaget's student-centered learning, where teachers begin with the student's existing understanding and help build on and develop their knowledge. One difference between Dewey and Piaget is that Dewey believed in schooling that focused equally on both the child and the curriculum, whereas Piaget believed that the curriculum should be shaped based on the child's specific learning abilities for each stage in his theory. All in all, both Dewey and Piaget had major contributions to education in the U.S. and in general. Overall, Piaget has influenced how educators perceive children's cognitive abilities and has altered their teaching methodologies. He has laid the foundation for further research to continue to be made. Although his theories were mainly based on observations of his own children, research conducted since his theory was first developed has provided evidence for his work. Despite these shortcomings, Piaget did not rule out that there could be exceptions or delays to his 4 stages. Rather, he constructed a layout of abilities children should have by certain ages. Therefore, Jean Piaget contributed to education through his cognitive development theory and has influenced how teachers interact with children and the ways in which they approach education to students. This list comprises my references used to create my presentation. Thank you.